Hey guys, welcome into the KC Sports Authority podcast. Before we get going in tonight's episode, just one quick announcement for you in case you guys missed it. You're probably wondering, who are these random two guys, Christopher and CJ, that you saw on our YouTube page this morning? These two are the hosts of the Aftermath KC podcast. This is a Chiefs podcast that we are bringing over to our YouTube channel to help us deliver high quality Chiefs content for you. So if you haven't yet, you can check out their episode that just dropped yesterday. And this is just recapping the preseason and getting you prepped for the Chiefs season upcoming. Check them out. You can follow them on Twitter at AftermathKC. You're going to be seeing a lot more of them on our podcast moving forward, as they will be kind of our official Chiefs coverage show. So check out their episode and give them a follow on Twitter, and then be looking forward to rest of the Chiefs content coming down the road. All right, in tonight's episode of the KC Sports Authority podcast, this is the KU Football 2023 season kickoff preview. We are going to get into predictions and expectations of the Hawks this season. And of course, to do that with me, I got another special guest, Sam Burt, who joined me several months ago, former defensive tackle from KU. He is back with me again tonight to talk some KU football, get you prepped for the season that is coming up, as kickoff is just days away, with the first game set for Friday night at 7 p.m. here in Lawrence at David Booth Memorial Stadium. Let's go ahead and get him on. Sam, welcome in to the podcast once again. How are you doing?
Good, man. Glad to be here.
I am so thankful that you can come back for this. You know, last time we talked, you were coming up on the end of your senior season. We recapped the season that you had, the career you had, and then we kind of talked about what the summer had in store for you. It's been several months since then. So let's just start off first with, how has your summer been and what are you up to currently?
Yeah, summer was pretty fun. I was doing a lot of job searching. I went to the Tampa Bay rookie mini camp, but didn't work out for me. And so spent most of the summer job searching. And this is I'm 1 month into a new job. I work for Evergy now, and as their emissions analyst. And so, like, I go around. I have nothing to do with energy production, so don't text me if power goes out. That's not my job. But I go up I visit the smokestacks that Evergy has, and we test air quality pretty much. So it's within the wheelhouse that I got my degree in. So it's been a blast so far.
So have you had any friends or family hit you up in the last few weeks about AC issues with the insane heat we've been having here in Kansas lately?
Yeah, my mom actually texted me this morning because their power went out, and I was like, Mom, I can't do anything for that.
There's been a lot of power outages lately. I know Topeka's been having it off and on the last few days.
Yeah.
So how about, how did that mini camp go in Tampa Bay? I know obviously sitting here now, you're not on the team, but how did that experience go? What did you learn from it? And what does football look like for you in the future?
Yeah, it was a really good experience to go down there and practice with them. Obviously it didn't work out, but I really liked the Tampa Bay coaches. At least the D-line coach I had was super fair with us, worked us out all the same. We had the first round draft pick in our room down to all of the rest of us. So he was a great guy to practice under, and learned a lot just in general about kind of how they think and how they construct their plays and how they learn them and how they kind of go about their daily business. So it was a really good insight into kind of that realm. Moving forward, though, now that teams have made their cuts and things like that, I am probably going to make the decision to just move forward without playing football and just move forward with my career. And but football will always be something I love doing, and hopefully we'll kind of circle back to hopefully maybe coaching here in a little bit. Maybe starting off with high school and seeing where that goes. But yeah, that's kind of the brief snapshot of where I'm at now.
I know you're still around the area. How much have you been able to check in on campus over the summer and see how the team looks and get an up close personal look at some of the guys?
Yeah, so I mean, I worked out there all spring and prep for the pro day, and um, kind of in the summer, I was still working out there a little bit, and then kind of got my own, found my own gym when the fall camp came around. So I've went to a couple practices during fall camp, and it was super intense. Or obviously, the coaches are getting them really ready for the season, and the development that they have is just so amazing. I mean, I've seen and heard about from guys still on the team of just players who have grown so much since last season and are leading now and kind of pushing what the so-called standard of the team, and it's just really cool to see, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out this season.
Yeah, so let's just roll right into it. KU football is days away, and this is the first time in several years for you that you get to be on the other end of it as a fan and a former player. I know we talked about this back in the spring too, a little bit about what you were looking forward to. But as we shift gears here to the season, we are now entering year 3 of the Lance Leipold era. Obviously, first year there was a lot of excitement with the new coaching staff, new players on the team, establishing a new culture. The season didn't go well as far as win-loss record, finishing 2-8, but we got that new culture established. And then going into year 2, you guys had a full off season to really prepare and grow as a team. And obviously we all know what happened last year in year 2. Year 2, we really took off, started off 5-0, a lot of hype, probably the most excitement we've had in football in over a decade, found ourselves ranked in the teens, hosted College Game Day, fizzled out a little bit there towards the end, but you guys had a really strong season, got to a bowl game, had an incredible finish to that game, went back and forth down to the wire. And so now we enter year 3, and I think it's safe to say that fans' expectations might be a little bit higher this year. I don't think anyone's out here expecting us to go, 12-1 and compete for the college football playoff. But when you go from a 2-win season to a bowl game, and you're seeing the development of this team, I think fans probably are hoping to see that success again. So I just want to start off with, what do you think is the ceiling for this team coming into the year with year 3 under their belts, another year of practice and development and learning the playbook and bringing in new guys to establish this culture and test their abilities? Where do you think this team is headed in this year 3?
I think personally they could be really strong contenders for the top of the Big 12, and I say that just as a hopeful KU football player alum. I'm never going to pick the bad side against my guys. I'll always pick them, but I think if they got a 9-win season, regular season, would be obviously super great season for them. I think 8 wins is great. All of it's great, but I think 9 is the next goal to strive after. I think 8 is kind of where I'm hoping that at least they land.
So their current projections, most places you go and look right now, they're sitting anywhere between 6 and 7 as their kind of realistic odds. If you're someone who likes to bet as a fan and you want to get betting odds on KU, it's a little bit of plus money right now at 6.5 wins, hoping that KU gets to 7. So that's kind of right in par with what you're talking about there. I think as fans, there is a lot of hope to see that 7, 8, 9 wins so we can see a little bit more progress. I was looking at a couple different projections, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up here while we're sitting here. Let's just take a look at the schedule real quick here. So for those of you watching us here on YouTube, you can see the schedule posted here. And of course, it's cutting off the bottom because I need to take off my banner. There we go. And I know it's still cutting off a little bit there. But as you look at this schedule here, obviously you've got Missouri State to start off the year. And for the most part, KU's been pretty solid in their opening games. Still going to be a tough matchup there. you never know what the first game is going to have entail for you. Then you got a big matchup with Illinois week 2 at home, another big home game against a big time program, a program that's had a lot of turnover the last year. So we don't really know what they're going to look like yet, but a game that's still going to be huge. Then they finally get their road test on the road at Nevada. Again, a program that's in a big Power 5 school. And then you got the new look Big 12 with BYU at home, another team that's always exciting. And then, of course, that big time matchup against Texas this year. Texas, who's struggled several the last years, had a good showing last year and is sitting atop the projection of the Big 12 this year. They are ranked number 11 currently. That's going to be a huge matchup down at Texas, and could be one of the last times we see KU playing Texas, as this is their final year in the Big 12. Yeah. Then we get that new look UCF, another Big 12 edition. Again, a team that you never really know what you're going to get, other than you're going to get a lot of firepower and energy from them because they're excited to be moving up a conference. Yeah. At Oklahoma State, again, another tough environment. Whether they have a great team or not, they're always a tough game on the schedule. Oklahoma, which of course fans are going to be pumped about again because this is one of the last times we'll see them in the conference. And Oklahoma may not be the powerhouse they have been of the past, but they are still a top-notch program. And then I know it's kind of cut off there on the bottom, but then we got Iowa State, Texas Tech, K-State, and then finishing off with Cincinnati, another Big 12 edition. So you said anywhere from 7 to 9 wins. Let's just pick apart this for a second. Where do you see some of the best wins on the schedule, and what are some of the ones that you're hoping become a surprise win? Because I've got mine, but I'm going to let you share yours first before I give you my prediction.
Yeah. Like I said before, I'm never going to count my guys out, so all of them look like wins to me. But I'll start at the beginning of Missouri State. I mean, obviously, when you play that first non-conference game, especially at a small school, they're going to have some tricks up their sleeve. They're going to try and do whatever they can to make a name for themselves on against a Power 5 team. And so that one is going to be a good test for us to how disciplined are we. It can be easy to go in and think that those smaller schools are going to be pushovers and easy wins. But as I learned my lesson, as KU learned that lesson several years in a row against Coastal Carolina, those are not easy wins all the time. And so that's going to be a good game for them to kind of get the ball rolling and put their money where their mouth is. I think Illinois is going to be a super exciting game. Obviously, another non-conference game, but against another Power 5 team. And I think that one's going to really set the stage early for the season. We had a really great game against Duke last season, another non-conference team. And I really think that springboarded us for the next couple wins. And so I think that the Illinois game, I think we win, obviously, but I think that one's going to be the real test in the first couple games. I think winning that one is going to springboard quite a bit for the next couple games because you go to Nevada, Mountain West team. I feel pretty confident about that. I think in my years we struggled on road games, and I think that now where Coach Leipold has us, I think those guys play really competitively on the road, and we saw that in West Virginia and Arkansas, a couple of different games like that where we had Houston where you kind of had to battle back on the road. And so I feel pretty confident about that one. Which one's next?
BYU at home. First time we get to see BYU in the Big 12.
Yeah. I think that is going to be a super, super competitive game. So right now I'm picking 4-0 because I still like our matchup against BYU. Yeah. I feel like with these new teams like BYU, especially UCF, coming from smaller conferences, well, BYU not necessarily, but especially UCF, and I think I might just wait to touch on that later. But obviously BYU has played. They're not a They're not coming from a smaller conference. They're an independent. So, they play who they play. They've played really good teams, pretty solid teams. So I think that is going to be a really good matchup for us, just in terms of they're going to want to make a name for themselves. Hopefully by that time we are 3-0 and rolling. And so that's going to be a good game, really competitive at home. Hopefully, sold out crowd and everything like that. I feel pretty confident to get that one.
Yeah, you start the year off right there 4-0, and just like last year, you're in the driver's seat to not only bowl path eligibility, but you're in the driver's seat for some conference discussion there. And I know right now KU's not listed at the top as one of the projected conference title game teams, but you're able to sneak a couple in the schedule that we're going to talk about here in a minute there. You might find yourself there, especially starting off 4-0. I guess I want to ask you this before we kept going, because I don't think fans really put this into perspective that often. What is it like as a player going from home games to that first road game where you're completely changing up your schedule midweek? You're flying out west, so you're losing time. You're going back in time, so you're kind of off schedule. What is that prep like for you guys on a week-to-week basis, going from here to there and back? What's that like for you?
Yeah, hopefully they'll have a little more time, because the first two games obviously are Friday night games, and you switch to a Saturday schedule, and so they're going to have an extra day in there to prepare, which is going to be good for them. In terms of like the travel, it is the first travel game. And last year we went to West Virginia first, and so that's always a big kind of wrench a little bit. There's no way to get past it of like, you're kind of in a new rhythm, and then you got to go away. And especially there, that travel, we've never traveled in the past 6 years I've been there out west that far. And so that's going to be, I'm sure they're going to do a whole lot of adjusting in the schedule to get them ready for that game, in terms of maybe even adjusting when they practice, or telling the guys, to adjust their sleep schedule in accordance. Because it's going to be, isn't it at like a 9 p.m. kickoff for them?
Yeah.
Like what would be Central Time?
Yeah, 9 p.m. Central Time. I think that would be 7 p.m. I think they're Pacific Time. So yeah, 2-hour difference. But for KU fans back home, that's a late kickoff to watch.
Yeah. And even for them, they're probably going to try to adjust their sleep schedule to be more like, to be ready at so their 9 p.m. is more 7 p.m. So that, they don't feel that drag obviously late in the game.
Do you ever find it difficult to sleep on the plane for those trips? Or are you up the whole time?
Yeah, but I find it difficult to fall asleep, but that doesn't necessarily always matter, because it's usually on the plane ride home. Usually they'll leave early enough on the plane ride there it won't really affect. Usually I'll just watch a movie because it's like 1 PM. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that won't really affect them on the way there, but it's just going to be they probably won't get done with the game until 1 a.m. Central Time. And so when they wrap everything up and get taped out or dressed out and everything like that. So that's always difficult to come back. And I don't know if they'll stay the night, but that's always difficult when you have to come back that day and then you're coming back early in the morning on Sunday, your schedules are messed up, and then you have to turn around and play the next Saturday, and you have to get ready for that. So that's going to be kind of that would probably be the biggest thing for them, is because I'm sure they'll take care of them before the game to get ready for the game, but then once the game's over, then you kind of have to adjust back to get ready for the next one.
All right, so going back to the schedule here, both you and I have us starting off 4-0 here, which then puts us in a monster matchup at Texas, who currently is ranked number 11th in the country. They are returning almost all of their production on offense, except for their 2-star running backs, but they're going to reload pretty easily right there. Quinn Ewers is coming into a big-time season, which he has a lot to play for, because he's got Arch Manning waiting in the wing, looking over his shoulder. Their defense has struggled the last several years, but they have a lot of guys returning and a lot of good incoming talent. Monster matchup there with Texas. Then, of course, UCF, and then Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. So if we're sitting at 4-0, in order to get to that 8-9 win season there, where do you see us needing to steal a game in the Big 12?
Yeah, I mean, if I am looking at which ones that I can see for sure, I mean, obviously nothing's for sure, but in my mind for sure, I see UCF, obviously the first four we said, UCF, OSU, Iowa State, and probably Cincinnati as for sure ones. I think that the toughest ones, obviously, will be Texas and OU and pulling off upsets there. Having Oklahoma at home is going to be better. Texas at Texas is going to be tough.
And I know it's covered up there, but Iowa State and Cincinnati are road games, and then Texas Tech and K-State are home games.
Yeah, I don't think
which is huge for the Sunflower Showdown.
Yes. I don't think Iowa State's going to have the same manpower. Obviously, they seem to be on kind of a downhill last year. And then with all the sports betting stuff that they had going on, a couple starters out. And obviously they have a great program. They have a great coach, and I'm sure they'll find a way to be competitive and fight back. But as of right now, I would consider that one a dub. But yeah, Texas Tech and K-State, I'm really looking forward to those. Texas Tech, I think, is going to be a sneaky tough one. I don't know why. They usually just play us super well. It being home is great. But yeah, they always seem to play super well against us.
That game last year just seems so wonky. Like again, not to throw you guys under the bus or anything, but there was just so many drives where you're just like, they're just marching down the field, and no matter what we throw at them, they're finding a way to get 10, 15 yards. And before you know it, you guys were down quick and didn't have the best path forward through that game. And yeah, Texas Tech just seems to be like one of those teams, whether they're a good team or a bad team, they just play really hard and they know how to run the football. And that was just a tough matchup. And it seems to be the case every year. Of those three big games that are on the schedule with Texas, Oklahoma, and K-State, which of those three do you think is the most likely potential game we steal? Or which one do you think would carry the most weight moving forward for the rest of the year in stealing that victory?
I think K-State for sure. I mean, I'm obviously me personally, and I know a lot of those guys have been chomping at the bit to play K-State super competitively and obviously win. And being at home is going to be, if the season goes super positively, that's going to definitely be a sold out game. And and I think like this year, out of all the years that I've been there, or obviously, out of all the years I've been there, this is definitely the most competitive we've been. And competitive not only in culture wise, because K-State also has a great culture, and I think that levels the playing field now of like, okay, like we're both bought in. And that, in past we've had super talented teams, but zero responsibility, zero discipline, to where like we go to that game against K-State and we're just shooting ourselves in the foot the entire game because they just play very methodically the whole game. And so I think this year is the first year really where the playing field is leveled, and it really comes down to scheme and players. And I'm really excited to see how we match up against K-State this year. I think that out of those three, I think that's the most likely one to kind of flip, and that one be a really good game and springboard us into the later part of the season, and then hopefully a bowl game.
Yeah, K-State for me is the game I'm circling this year as the most anticipated, most exciting game I'm looking forward to, because just like you said, this is probably the first year where on paper we match up pretty well talent-wise. K-State, they lost a lot of guys this last year to the NFL, and while they are bringing back a good chunk, and of course they are bringing back potential Heisman candidate and Will Howard at quarterback for a full season now, KU's offense is right on par with with what they can do. So I think that's the game for me. I'm circling as if we can snag that one, not only will that be a big momentum builder for this season, but I think that's one that helps carry the program the next several years, because that puts us back on the map in the state of Kansas, knowing that we are capable of playing at the same level of K-State and being able to seal a win with them. When I think, if anything, that just sets up the border showdown even more for the next several years to come. And that'd be a huge one to steal and give a lot of KU fans true hope for the direction this program's going.
Absolutely. Especially when you look at, like, you know, when you talk about the border showdown, or not the border showdown, but the Sunflower Showdown, and just like what that means for recruitment within the state of Kansas. Obviously, you know, being there this spring and summer, we've gotten a lot more Kansas recruits, just because of how we've trended. But you know, you be competitive in that showdown, and that changes a lot of things, especially, you know, as we've just got a new locker room, new weight room, and looking to get a new stadium. Like, all those things come into all those things are a factor, especially if you win that game and become competitive. And then the state of Kansas recruiting just busts right open. And again, playing field is very level.
So if we get that game against K-State and you get UCF and let's say Iowa State, I think that puts us at 8 with K-State, Cincinnati at 9. 9-3 season's pretty solid.
It's pretty solid.
That's way above what I think most people would be expecting. Do you think 9-3 is good enough to get us a crack at the Big 12 championship?
Yeah.
Or I guess, is that ceiling obtainable this year?
I think it's obtainable. Will it get you to the Big 12 championship? I don't know. It really depends on how Texas and OU and K-State turn out. Obviously, you know, in our predictions, we predict hopefully getting that one. But yeah, I mean, also you have to look at the teams that we don't play in the Big 12, like Baylor and TCU.
TCU still got a good team this year.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Obviously, like, that's kind of hard to take into account too. But I think, just, you know, when talking about 9-3, I think that's attainable. I think that for me is the ceiling. Well, I mean, obviously, you know, you want to lay the chips where they lay. You know, I think 12 wins is the ceiling, but like, I think 9-3 would be a super great season for KU. Obviously, from where we've come to where we're going, 9-3 would be a stamp that, like, okay, we're legit, we're for real. This team is going to be a competitor in the years to come.
So obviously, in order for us to get to even 9 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, 6 wins, anywhere in there, it's going to have to be a lot of what we saw last year offensively, as well as improvements on the defense. But that rolls me into the offense itself. Last year, you guys exploded on the scene as an offense, finished top 10 in the nation in scoring, had some incredible back and forth games. Jalen Daniels really burst onto the scene and showed what he's capable of doing. Heading into year 3 with Kotelnicki and Jalen at the helm again, how high can this offense fly? You know, a lot of projections out there still have Kansas finishing as a top 10 offense in the nation again. And if they do so, then that'll, like I said, that'll put them in the position to compete for 8, 9, 10 wins. But seeing where this group was last year, knowing that they're basically returning almost everyone on offense, pretty much the entire offensive line minus one guy, and they're shuffling around just a little bit, probably have one of the most experienced offensive lines in the Big 12 this year, and one of the best offensive lines we've probably had in a long time.
Yeah.
What is the ceiling of this offense? Can they even improve upon being a top 10 team and solidify themselves as a top 5, top 3 team in all of the nation?
Yeah, I think their ceiling is super high. You know, obviously the goal for them, I know, is to improve on that top 10. Obviously they want no part in staying consistent and want no part in definitely in going backwards. So I know that they're pushing to be an even better offensive team this season. And so, but yeah, I mean, you return as many starters as they are, obviously a whole another year of experience under their belts. You know, whatever Coach K crafts up. And I think this is going to be a really good offense. Yeah. And just the leadership that Mike Nowitzki provides, as well as the skill level of Dom Pooney on the offensive line, just being just a super huge force on the O line, and I think and the two backs. I'm really looking forward to see Highshaw back.
Yes.
Really looking forward to watching him run, and obviously you have Jalen too, and he stays healthy, and this offense to me has a super high ceiling of maybe even top 5 in my opinion.
It really does take me back to that Orange Bowl season where we had so many weapons offensively. We had the two backs with Jake Sharp and Brandon McAnderson, a quarterback that could sling it all over the field. Now, Jalen's got a little bit more running ability than Todd Reesing, and is a little bit bigger size too. But, I mean, they return all of their tight ends. And I was talking to each of them a while back over the summer, kind of getting their perspective on what their own personal goals were for the season. And all three of them told me first or second team all Big 12. And I do think we have 3 tight ends that are capable of being first, second team all Big 12.
Yeah.
All experience, Jared Casey, there's probably few guys in the country that are as sure-handed as he is.
Yeah.
Mason Fairchild, just the prototypical built tight end, and he's just getting better year after year. Trevor Cardell, he's got the size, he's got the height and leaping ability, and I'm sure Kotelnicki's finding ways to include him more in the offense. So we have a trio of tight ends that could be dynamic weapons across the field. The wide receiver room, super experienced again. Luke Grimm coming back, and he's that Wes Welker, Julian Edelman guy that you could just throw it to 15 times a game, and he's going to eat you up the middle of the field. We saw Quentin Skinner catch long, deep balls all last year, and he's got that talent there. A bunch of returning guys there too, but that running back group of Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw, it was such a shame to see Highshaw go down last year because that guy just never gives up. You put the ball in his hands, he's going full steam ahead. You're not stopping him, and he was on pace to have a huge year. Getting him back healthy and having that 1-2 punch with him and Highshaw, and we even heard it today in a press conference. Kotelnicki said, "We're going to run the ball, and we're just going to pound the rock. We're going to pound the rock." And I think if KU does that, then yeah, you're looking at a repeat, if not an improvement of the offense last year. Because if those two guys are getting the ground game going, that just opens up the field for Jalen to sling it around the field and spread the ball out. So that kind of leads me to my next question. Then is Jalen Daniels Heisman candidate? He's got a long shot. He's kind of on the outside looking in early, but if he stays healthy all year and improves on where he was last year, I think going into his injury, he was probably a top 5, top 7 candidate for a while. Is it realistic for fans to expect Jalen to be in the Heisman race, considering some of the other programs out there might have higher season expectations? But what would it take for Jalen to have a Heisman type season?
That's a good question. I always think Jalen can do whatever he wants, like on the field, and he's just super talented. He's super charismatic. He has great leadership ability, and I think he can lead the team wherever they want to go. And so, in my opinion, I say yes, Heisman candidate. But you bring up a good point of I think the biggest limiting factor to a Heisman candidate is the team, the team overall record. And I think that obviously you want the best players to be Heisman candidates and obviously the Heisman, but obviously team overall takes into account a little bit and how they determine all of that stuff. And so, I think if KU can have a successful season, go 9-3, I definitely think he'll be on the stage for a Heisman candidate if everything were to go obviously really well.
Especially if that Texas, Oklahoma, and K-State matchup, whether we win or lose, if we're super competitive and he's outperforming the other quarterbacks on a national stage like that, I think it's one of those things where you need the national perspective to take notice. And I think we were getting to that point last year where he was getting recognized and his talent was being shown. Unfortunately, the injury happened and it kind of slowed him down. But if he can maintain what he was doing last year and this offense takes another step forward, I think nationally he'll start picking up some more recognition and get some votes there. Offense is going to be incredible. We've got a lot of talent there returning. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what goes on there. But obviously we know if we're going to improve upon where we were last year, one of the things that hurt you guys in several games last year was the defense. You've got a lot of returning starters. You've got a lot of incoming guys that are super talented. There's going to be a lot of shuffling around. You get guys like Jason Gilliam, who's going to be back from injury, who didn't get to play much last year. You still got your anchor on defense in Kenny Logan. What do you need to see from the defense this year to take those steps forward so we're not in these 55, 54 shootout type games?
Yeah. I think it really just comes down to the elder guys like, Rich and Kenny, like really owning their leadership positions and them becoming cohesive. And because we were last year super talented. We are this year super talented on defense. I don't think we're always on the same page. And so I think it's really going to take those leaders, even throw Craig Young in there and Caitlin Gervin, who have a lot of experience and are really good players, to really make the defense their own, and to make it one unit, like truly one unit. I think that's the biggest limiting factor on I think the defensive ceiling is super high. Mm-hmm. I think they can really shut down teams, but they're going to have to really like come together for that. And I'm sure they've been working on it all spring and summer. And I know Rich is working tirelessly on how to improve that defense. And so
he's got his sights set on the all-time single season tackles record at KU.
Yeah.
And I think that's doable.
Yeah. And so, I really, I'm saying like that's their limiting factor, but I also have a lot of faith in them that they've been putting in the necessary work, because I know Coach Sleeve and Coach Leipold wouldn't let them do it any other way. And so I really have a lot of faith that they can just continue to improve and put us into places where we can win games, and obviously, shut down the offenses along the way. But the biggest thing for right now, obviously the next step in my mind, is to just have the defense put the offense in places to win games. And that comes obviously from 3-and-outs, stopping momentum, obviously turnovers, and, all that kind of stuff leads up to putting your offense in a good place to score and win. And I think that is the next biggest step for the defense.
The talent is certainly there at all three levels. You've got a senior leader in Kenny Logan at the safety position, one of the top safeties in the country. You pair him alongside OJ Burrows, who has another year under his belt in this program, another year of development, super athletic. Obviously a breakout star in Kobe Bryant, who has potential to really put himself on the map this year when it comes to NFL hopes. And then again, you've that linebacker crew. You've got some really talented guys that I think are super underappreciated and undervalued nationally, not just Rich Miller, but Tywin Berryhill, Jason Gilliam, Craig Young. I mean, that guy's super athletic. He does not look like your typical linebacker.
No.
At his size and speed, and he's able to do things that you just don't typically see. That even brings us to the defensive line, new look defensive line this year. You do have some returning starters and guys that are upperclassmen that you played alongside with, but you guys do lose a handful of pieces, yourself included, Lonnie Phelps, Malcolm Lee, to name just some of them. But you get some guys coming in. Devin Phillips is coming in. Dylan Brooks coming in, transfer. A lot of talent there. That's kind of where I wanted to lead in here, being a defensive line guy yourself. Who leads this defensive line group coming into the season? Who are the guys that need to step up, have a huge year to take on that pass rush, to fill the stat sheet? And what are you looking forward to seeing out of this group? And maybe who are a couple guys that you think are now primed for some huge success?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's a question where I'm really hoping to see in the first couple games of like who sticks out the most. And I think Devin, I was, when I came to practice in the spring and I came to a couple during fall camp, and he just really sticks out to me as someone who just provides a lot of experience and someone who plays super fundamental, which is what this D-line needs as a core, which is just plays super fundamental. He's going to do the right thing and he's going to play super well while doing it. And I think that is huge for this D-line. And I think he was a really good grab in the portal. Out of the other guys, I am really looking forward to seeing Tommy develop and him to get a lot of experience this season. Obviously, he got cycled in last season quite a bit, and I'm really looking forward to him making the D line his own, and to really take charge. Also, with that is looking at DJ Withers and Caleb Taylor, two really solid players. Caleb is CT is ginormous. I mean, he's like 310 pounds and he's cut, and
he is chiseled.
And so he looks really good. He plays really well, and so I'm looking for him to have a big year too. And then all the rest of the guys, like I think it's a really talented D-line group, where they've been led by me and in terms of just the D tackles, and I'll get to the ends here in a second. Yeah. In terms of just the D tackles, super talented group, and they've been predominantly led by me and Caleb Sampson and Jelani Arnold, we were all in the same grade. And so what's I think going to be the limiting factor for them is where is the leadership coming from, whether that's from the DN, Jeremy Robinson or Hayden Hatcher or one of them inside. They'll just need to make this group their own and come out and play, because they're all, like I said, all super talented. They just need to play as a unit and play together. And yeah, I think the ceiling for them is super high. They just need to make it their own. But yeah, in terms of DNs, I think the DN group has a super high ceiling. Jeremy played super well last season. I'm super excited to see him have like just like a lockdown position, obviously, because he went back and forth with Lonnie and Malcolm and got cycled in there a little bit. But I'm really excited to see him own his side of the ball and just go to work. He's going to have a really good group. I mean, he's gotten, I think, just a couple strip sacks last year, a lot of sacks just on top of that, TFLs. He's going to have a big year, I think. And I'm also really excited to see Hayden Hatcher, another guy who, just because of Lonnie and Malcolm, got kind of those like cycle reps. But I think he's going to get a lot more reps this year, and I'm really excited to see him play as well.
I think that's kind of funny that you guys had depth last year, but because of that depth, not everybody got a whole lot of significant time on the line. Yeah. And so you see these guys come back, Jeremy Robinson and Hayden Hatcher being those two that are probably at the forefront of that D line, getting the most snaps. That still leaves you as a fan excited, though, because while you didn't see a whole lot of them last year, they're still very talented, and now they're going to have their opportunity to showcase what they can do. And I think both of those two are set to have a huge year. And I think we need both of them to have a big year.
Yeah.
But yeah, that D line group is going to be really fun to watch. You know, mixing Austin Booker there, fans haven't really had a chance to see him at all. Another super athletic guy. You know, even throwing Craig Young in there on the edge from now and then with his speed. Even another returning upperclassman in Keenan Caldwell. But Tommy Dunn's the one I'm looking forward to. I don't know when the last time was you saw him this year, but the transformation he's had physically in the last 2 years here. I mean, the guy has slimmed down and then bulked up. He is chiseled. He's fit, broad shoulders. He's got the body type now. And there's been a lot of fun talk about how impressive he's been in practices. And so I think this group's going to be a lot of fun. For me, I'm always one when it comes to football. I think the success of a team always comes down to the trenches, both sides of the ball. You've got to have an offensive line that can push back, and you've got to have a defensive line that can be aggressive and push forward. So this is going to be a lot of fun to watch this team this year. A lot of potential on this group. You know, this is, again, year 3. Not to put pressure on Coach Borland, but Coach Borland's had a lot of people talking about when you're going to get this group to perform at a higher level. And I think this year is a big year for him as a coach, and a big year for them to showcase that the development that everyone's talking about is going to translate on the field. And if this D-line group can hold up and slow down the run, if it did more of that last year, you guys probably had another 2 wins under your belt at least. And if that can happen again this year, then yeah, we're sitting at 8, 9, 10 potential wins, which is exciting. So before we wrap up, I want to wrap up with some of the stadium talk. But before we do that, I'm going to put you on the spot here for a second and put myself on the spot. Let's throw out a couple bold predictions you have for the season, whether that's win total, player success, upset game. What are a couple bold predictions you want to throw out there now to get on paper? So when we look back 6 months from now, we can go, you heard it here first.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, I've said most of mine. I feel like my bold prediction for the season is 8-4 regular season, and then win in a bowl game for the first win in a bowl game since 2009, I think. 2008 maybe.
2010, I think technically.
2010, one of those. Yeah, that's my, obviously I have no idea who it'll be against or where it'll be at, but that's my bold prediction is we finish the season 9-4. Really solid season.
9-4 with the bowl win.
With the bowl win.
All right. How about give me one player prediction?
I bet I'm gonna go with my boy JR because I think he's the one I know the best and super talented. So I think he's gonna have 2 strip sacks, and I want him in the season with 9 sacks. No, 10 total sacks.
There, make it double digits. Let's just make it double digits there. Yeah, if Jeremy has a big year like that, it's Lonnie was a lot of excitement last year, and of course he didn't get the double digit sack himself, but he was close on several occasions. But yeah, if Jeremy gets to 10 sacks, that'll be huge. I think I'm in agreement with you. I think it's very possible we get to 9 wins, and I think in order to get there, my bold prediction then is we finally take the top off and beat K-State at home and set up a big time rivalry again, not that it hasn't been, but set up a big time back and forth moving forward. And then I'm going to say we beat either Texas or Oklahoma and send them off out of the Big 12 with a smack, well, maybe not a smackdown like that Nebraska game from a decade ago of 40 plus points, but we send one of those 2 to the SEC with a loss, which knocks them out of the Big 12 championship and out of the college football playoff. I think that would be huge. That would get us close to 9 wins. I think that would make a lot of fans excited that we get to say goodbye to those 2 SEC schools and good riddance, which then could help supplant KU as one of the top dogs in the conference moving forward. I know there's a lot of conference shakedown coming the next couple of years, but KU is primed in the football standpoint to get to that point. I think from a player perspective, I would love to sit here and say I think Jalen Daniels is going to win the Heisman. I think he's got a lot to accomplish to get there. There's just other players at other schools that have an easier path. But I'll say this. I think KU ends up with the most first-team all Big 12 players on offense. I'm going to say it's going to be – I'm saying we get Nowitzki and Pooney on the O-line.
Yep.
I think we get at least 1 tight end. I'm going to say we get 2 with Fairchild and Casey.
Okay.
Jalen for sure. Devin Neal for sure. So that gives you 6 of the 11 right there, and that gives you more than half. So I'm going to say we get 6 on first team. With an outside chance of Luke Grimm being second team and Quentin Skinner honorable mention, which is not too far off from the early preseason predictions. But that's my prediction there. Get a large chunk of the all Big 12 first team being KU, which would be insane to think about. And that doesn't necessarily mean it translates to us winning the Big 12, but showcases how successful this offense is. Okay, before we wrap up here, one last thing. It's been a lot of excitement talking from KU athletics the last several months. Now that football is picking up and things are looking up and up, they've been talking about the renovations that are coming, and a lot of them have gone underway already. You yourself have already gotten to see the new weight room and locker room and how exciting that is. And of course, we've got the new stadium renderings coming up. very different look from what KU fans are used to seeing. So I want to kind of get your perspective, not just as a player, what it's like to see some of these changes and what the new locker room looks like, but what do you think of these new renderings of the potential direction our football stadium is going to be going, and what kind of impact do you think that has on the program and the fan base moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's going to be obviously amazing. I think the weight room and the locker room themselves, I went in there a couple weeks ago, and it literally looks like it looks fake. Like it literally looks like a rendered image, like the stadium does inside when you're there. That's how like pristine and amazing it is. The weight room is insane, and I wish I had another year to work out there. But yeah, that stuff. And just talking about that stuff, like all the science that Sleeve has in there, and you know, like the next thing is like with players is they want a nice locker room, and so you know, whether you like it or not, like that's what players are looking for.
Yeah,
and so having a very competitive, and I would say probably one of the best in the countries now, locker rooms is super great for KU, and just in terms of recruitment and just in terms of like people wanting to come to KU because of all of the stuff that we have. Again, whether that's great or not, I don't know, but it is what it is. And so, and like next after this season, they're going to start tearing down the training room and making a whole new training room, and that's going to be awesome for them. More space and things like that. In terms of the stadium, I really love the stadium. I think it's very unique. I think it's very modern. It honestly kind of reminds me of Houston a little bit, and it also kind of reminds me of like a soccer stadium where everything feels more like close and compact. And I really like it. I think Travis Goff is doing an amazing job of leading this athletics program, and just because obviously he's from Dodge City, and so he really cares about all things KU, down from the smallest tradition to the very top. And so I know that they're doing an amazing job of putting not only like making things new and making them exciting, obviously looking nice and increasing fan experience, but also holding fast to the traditions of KU and everything that makes KU great. And so I really love it. I think my only question would be is what happens with parking and tailgating.
Yeah, you can see here that there's already some parking that's going to be disappearing for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's
not going to make anyone happy.
Yeah, and in terms of like a tailgating presence, I just want to know what that would look like. That's kind of my only like, I wonder what their plan is for that. But in terms of everything else, I love it, and it's going to be great. It's going to be a great experience to go there. Yeah.
It's a very different look. Like I think what's going to be weird at first for a while is not seeing the giant Ward suites there, because we've had those for so long now, and that this new stadium, I mean, just pull it up, it looks more like a professional stadium, the way it's organized. And it took me a while to notice this at first too, but the way the lights are structured, and this was the intention, is that it kind of looks like your wheat waving back and forth, you know, to play into the wave and the wheat. So yeah, it's a really cool looking stadium. Somehow just looking at it, it feels like we're going to fit a significant amount more fans, but I know it all kind of shakes out to be about the same. But that's gonna be a lot of fun. You know, you've got, it looks like, you know, the couple buildings that are attached to it are going to be improved offices and that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot of exciting things coming with KU football, and it all starts this Friday night at the booth. 7 o'clock, Missouri State at home, game 1 of the 2023-2024 season. Wow, that's a mouthful to get out. Sam, what is your prediction on the final score of this game, and what is the one thing that I think at the end of the game you're going to look back and go, KU football is here and they're not going anywhere?
I'm guessing for a game score, I'm guessing 53-10. I'm going significant. I'm going they're going to show out. I'm going they're going to make a statement first game. I think just a dominant performance across the board, winning the turnover battle. on defense, I think would be super important for them, as obviously as well as offense on turning the ball over. And I think seeing, I would say at least seeing like a third of the time being 3 and outs. I think that would be a super dominant performance for the defense. I don't even know the numbers that I would predict for offense. I just assume they're going to have a really good night. So,
are you going to find yourself at the stadium Friday night?
My sister's getting married, so I will not be finding myself at the stadium. But I am so sad. We have the rehearsal dinner that night at that time, and I'm gonna be on the phone watching it the whole time. But
as long as you're able to pencil in that K-State game and some of these other ones I've covered for the year, for sure. Well, that kind of wraps us up on our KU football season kickoff preview show. This has been a lot of fun. Super excited for the season that is coming up. Jayhawk fans, find yourself at the stadium this weekend to get things going. Sam, thank you so much for hopping back on with me for this. I hope we can chat some more throughout the season. Always love getting your take as a former player and now fan. Where, I know you said you're back into the working realm now, but if fans want to keep up with anything that you have going on in your life, what's the best way they can find you?
Probably on Instagram. It's SamBurt93. That's probably the best place. Probably most on there most often. I'm on Twitter every once in a while, but on Instagram is probably where I'm the most present.
And then I want to leave you with this. As a former player now, what advice would you give to either the incoming seniors this season or incoming freshmen for game 1 specifically? What goes through your mind when you're entering that first game of the year?
I think the first thing is, they tell you all the time that it's never as good as you think and it's never as bad as you think. And so in knowing that, it's, I would say just, it's easy to overthink the first game because, you've been practicing for a month. You've just been playing against your teammates. You're playing a non-conference team, which is in obviously a smaller division than you. And so you've been told for weeks that, this team, you're either being told 2 things. One is the team is no good and you're going to steamroll them, which I would say is a very healthy mindset. Or you've been told that they're going to have tricks up their sleeve and they're going to surprise you and beat you, which also I want to say is super helpful. And so, I just think like just taking the film for what it is, and just going out there and playing and trusting your technique and trusting your training, because that's at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And it's not whether this team is good or bad, but just like, what can I do on this play and how can I prepare myself the best?
Fantastic. I love it. Well, guys, he's Sam Burt. I am Keegan Russell. This has been another episode of the KC Sports Authority podcast. Just as a reminder, you can find our podcast on Spotify and over on YouTube. You can also hit us up on any of our socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and now TikTok. Just search at KCSA Pod. Plenty of more fun stuff coming down the road. We've got fantasy football getting ready to come out. Some sports betting is going to be coming on for college football and the NFL. And then just again, as a reminder, if you haven't checked it out already, the Aftermath podcast has now joined our channel to talk Chiefs. So lots of great content coming along the way. But we're never going to stop bringing you KU content. So like and subscribe to us on all of those platforms. Make sure you're sharing it with your friends. And as always, until we talk again, guys, rock chalk.